All right. All right. All right, everyone. Thank you so much for joining. As you know, the personal statement, it's a big part of your college essay. Why is it important? Think about what your college application consists of. It's your grades. Number one thing they're going to be looking at is your GPA for over all 4 years. So if you're here in ninth grade, I'm really, really happy because if your school is collecting grades and providing 95s versus 90s, even during COVID, your ability to perform well in your GPA will be one of the things that helps make you stand out from other candidates during the college application process. So not only do colleges look for your grades, but they do want to make sure holistically you have strong extracurricular activities, whether it's sports, whether it's community service, or whether it's something in the field that you're hoping to grow into. And they really want to also hear from you as an individual. It's not just the numbers, the stats, and the grades. It's really about who you are as a human being. So why is it important? Allow them a chance to get to know you. Oftentimes college essays have to do with the extracurricular activities because there's at least some sort of experience that the student can speak about and convey to that college admissions committee. It also helps us make ourselves unique from other applicants. What if I'm the admissions leader at a common place that a lot of New Yorkers apply to, NYU, and there's only two spots left, and both kids are from a pretty good high school. One's from Cardozo and one's from Brooklyn Tech. They're two top high schools in New York City, well known, and let's say their academic profile is exactly the same. And lo and behold, their extracurricular activities are very similar. They've both taken 3 or 4 APs, maybe 2 honors classes. And now it's down to the decision of, who's going to be a better fit in that program. So oftentimes it's that personal statement that would allow one person to really communicate and speak to that admissions committee for that spot. And personal statements become really important for programs that are smaller in size because those are even more selective. So the type of person behind the grades really, really matters then. So these are all reasons why the personal statement is such an important aspect of the college application process. So general advice, things that you should absolutely keep in mind. The first thing to think about is, you are telling a story. This is an opportunity. It's not something scary. They're not looking out to, take away points for this or that. They're really looking to see how you're able to communicate your personal story. Another second tip is when you're speaking about an experience, go ahead, use some examples. Make sure it's all connecting and explain, some of the reasons why you decided to volunteer at the hospital. Sometimes we do extracurricular activities because we know that it looks good for college. However, if you're able to convey why that particular field or that particular office or that particular experience was meaningful for you, that will help connect that information for the admissions committee. So the why you did something is a big part of that story. Also, you can also start speaking about what you know. If some of your experiences have allowed you to grow and enjoy experiences that others didn't. This week, I read several personal statements on someone's experience at Model UN, Model United Nations, and there was a lot of seminars, a lot of that started at school. Sometimes the seminars would grow into other competitions that were more citywide. So this person was able to really, intricately make a comparison. Hey, even though this was hosted in the chemistry lab in my high school, the experiences in Model UN made you forget that you were in like the science lab. So, please be sure to use some components of what you were able to do. If you're able to speak about any particular accomplishments or a journey that led to an accomplishment, that's always something that they look for. And also do your research. If you're speaking about a school or you really want to go to a school, but you haven't done the proper research on that school, and you start speaking about stuff that really doesn't align with the values of that school, you want to be sure to not fall into that trap either. So those are some of the things that you want to be sure to do. For example, when I applied to those medical programs in the Ivy Leagues, one of the biggest mistakes I made was I never properly prepared myself for the Columbia University interview. And I thought that I knew everything I needed to about Columbia University, but I didn't realize how much of an importance that they place on their core curriculum. It's 2 years of fixed classes that they ensure that every single freshman and sophomore can take at Columbia. And when they were speaking to me about it in the interview, I was pretty clueless. I was answering questions, kind of like pulling it out of left field or out of thin air. And it came across. The person was able to tell that I wasn't really serious about Columbia and I didn't do my proper research when applying. So you want to be sure to look up a school properly, see exactly where their values are before you start writing about them or you're a future applicant with them. Some of the pitfalls and the ways that you want to be a little careful. And at the end of the slide, we'll open it up for the first set of questions. So the don'ts. Don't talk about controversial topics. So, you're absolutely welcome to, but I wouldn't advise it. We've all lived through 4 years of a very polarized country where depending on what you valued and what you're looking at, maybe 50% of the country may not agree with you at all. So if there are conversations around reproductive rights or conversations around anything that can have like a very yes/no version to it, like selecting the Supreme Court, you want to be able to write about things that are, personally important to you without you run the risk of speaking about a controversial topic just on the other side of it. You can, but it's a very risky play. Next up, another thing you should be mindful of and be wary of and proceed with caution. Don't include experiences or accomplishments in high school or earlier. While experiences in high schools are great, you want your essay to stand out about your experience. So it's not an opportunity to rewrite all of your extracurricular activities. That's not the section for it. They will see that. They want you to focus on one or two things that were meaningful, and we'll get into that a little bit more. Next up, avoid cliches in your story. Just be careful. They want to know about you and what you're trying to share. So if you suddenly get caught up in trying to use fancy words, or long, complicated vocab, even though that's not the way you speak, that may come out and become obvious to the reader. And on the other side of it, you want to be sure you're not too casual. It is a personal statement, and you can't write it in a way as if it's a text to your best friend in the way we sometimes speak to one another. So we got to be careful, keep it professional, avoid some of the cliches, and keep it original when you're able to. So let's go into some of the types of questions that may pop up. And before that, let's get some questions from the audience. Farhan, do we have anything in the chat box? We'll give it a minute for everyone to post their questions up. Nipa, if you're there, you can also join in for the question relays like we did last week. I don't hear any questions further.
For the time being, there's one. It says, what exactly did you mean when saying to not write about high school experiences?
Give me 1 second to make sure. I think I think we could have phrased that a little bit better. you don't want to just write, hey, junior year, I took AP chemistry and pre-calc, and it was a lot of pressure, and I took my mid-years. You want to, you don't want to just litter them with things that are already in your transcript. That's what we meant. But clearly, whether it's something that happened to you before high school or during high school, that's fine. And we'll work on the rewording of it. But it was avoid listing out all of your high school credentials. That's what we intended to say. Great question for the clarification. Thank you.
I don't see any other questions, but I was going to ask you, what did you write for your personal statement?
I appreciate that question. When I remembered, when I applied, there were different colleges that wanted different statements. Some of them overlapped a lot, like the similar colleges, but I do remember the Sophie Davis ones, and I'm happy to talk about that when we reach the prompts. They asked about a national topic that's of health significance that I wanted to address and tackle. And I wrote about ways that we could decrease deaths due to drunk driving. And that's what my personal statement was, and I'll be happy to elaborate more on that. But thank you for asking.
Thank you.
All right, let's see what types of questions they may have. So there's 3 big categories that, we'll start off by breaking them down. Knowing yourself, it's the questions that have to do with yourself. Questions about a resiliency, like any challenging thing that you ever went in life, that you encountered in life where you would have had to really dig deep and show your grit and your ability to overcome some challenges. Not everyone's born with the same type of privilege, and sometimes we end up with life-challenging situations like a sick family member, or our experience through COVID and how much of a impact that had on us. So that's absolutely an okay topic if that's something where you want to take it. So moving to starting with know thyself, what special, unique, distinctive, or impressive aspects are impressive about you or your life story? What personal characteristics do you possess that would improve your application, integrity, compassion, or persistence? And what details of your life or family problems, history of people that have shaped your influence your goals? So oftentimes it's about someone that's been a mentor or played a good influence in your life and how they've helped shape the person that you've become. Resilience, we've spoken about. Have you had to overcome any unusual obstacles or hardships, economic, familial, or physical? Or are there any gaps or discrepancies in your academic record that you want to explain? So these are some really, really important questions that I feel admissions folks love to read about, particularly the first bullet. Have you had to overcome any unusual obstacles or hardships? This is not a signal for you to play a victim and list like 5-6 problems and hope that they feel bad for you. That's not the way the goal of this is. It's really about choosing 1 or 2, speaking about that experience, but more importantly, how did you overcome that? How did that make you a stronger person? What lessons did you take away from having to endure that experience that you had to grow from? The final bullet here: if you've worked a lot during your high school years, what have you learned? Whether it's managerial skills, if you've ever worked outside of high school, how has that work experience during high school contributed to your growth? Self-reliance, they're looking for leadership or experiences where you've been able to show your communication and analytic skills. So let's say you were the leader of your track team, and this has nothing to do with academics here. It's not really about track either. Maybe it's about what you learn having to be that captain or having to be that liaison with the coach. And it's more about a development essay of knowing how to, follow the instructions while keeping your fellow teammates inspired. And there's a lot that more and more colleges are looking for around leadership and emotional intelligence. Next up in the self-reliance category, what are the most compelling reasons you can give to the admissions committee to be interested in you? Um, that's very, very open, very general, and also something that you may have something that really comes to your mind. Hey, when I was a kid, I actually won this science competition, and it helped, this these other things happen. Or I started this student organization at school, and after that, things change for the better. So if there's anything where that's impact like a final outcome that's really helped move the needle, that's something that colleges would love to know about. And finally, why might you be a stronger candidate for admissions and more successful in the profession or field than other applicants? So this is, kind of a risky one. You have to flex and brag a little bit while remaining humble, while remaining self-aware. It's not an invitation to sound on top of sound on the mountain and pound your chest and be like, yeah, no one can beat me. It's not like that. It's about a way for you to communicate your understanding and your confidence in your own abilities while ensuring that they know that you're not here to diss on other people. You're just making sure to make yourself in the strongest light possible. So before we move on from the types of topics, do we have any questions on these three before we move on? Any questions from anyone out there?
We have one. It said, what's a good response when you're talking about the last question for self-reliance? Because I think that it is the most common question.
It's going to be different for everyone. What if you know that you've spent 4 years researching a group of schools, and you have a really good idea, and it's the amount of research that you've done. You've gone to college visits, you've gone to speak to former alumni, and you've really done the homework on that place and gotten the extracurriculars around it. So maybe showcasing how prepared you are compared to others and providing some real life examples to showcase that. Outside of that, why might you be a stronger candidate? If you have any type of evidence, like you placed in top 3 in a national in a state competition, or you're a semifinalist, that could provide some evidence of you achieving goals when compared to your peers. Does that do we have any more questions?
We do not have any other questions.
Perfect. We'll just keep moving then. There's not again, we're gonna, a lot of this today's episode and the workshop today, a lot of the information will repeat itself. So if you're still trying to figure out the exact answer to a question that you may have, it may pop up in the later slides. So hang tight and we're gonna get through it. Career oriented. When did you become interested in this field? And what have you learned about it that has further stimulated your interest and reinforced your conviction you're well suited to this field? What insights have you gained? So for this, then the first thing that comes to mind is be careful not to write about something that your family really wants you to do. Because remember, the question is, when did you become interested in this field? So it can't be, ever since I was a kid and I went to the pediatrician, it was my family's dream that I became a doctor when I grow up. It's not really answering the question of why you want to be a computer scientist or an artist or a public health expert. You really have to be sure that you're talking about you and your own personal experiences. What are your career goals? Pretty general. It's fine to speak about it, but if you are undecided, choose a different question. If you're undecided and the question is, what are your career goals? You don't want to spend the whole time having your entire essay being about not knowing. It's a risky move, and you want to be able to select a prompt that you're really able to articulate well. What personal characteristics do you have that that prospect for success in the field or profession? Is there a way to demonstrate or document that you have these characteristics? again, it's talking about yourself in a way where you can find out whether you're a good fit for that profession. So let's say you've actually had an experience getting to volunteer at a law firm, and you were able to shadow some attorneys and do some paralegal work. And there are particular types of characteristics that really make you ideal for that. You know, that's something that you can dive into. How have you learned about this field? Have you been attending classes, seminars, work, or other experiences? That can also showcase how much you've dedicated time over the years to a particular cause or to a particular journey. So that's another way of asking that question. So here are some actual prompts from the Common Application. The Common App is a computerized, system that helps you streamline and allows you to apply to a lot of schools without having to do that application over and over and over again. You can use a single Common Application, and whichever schools accept the Common App, you can match it up and say, hey, send this to that school, send this to Binghamton, send this to Rutgers, and you're able to use that. So let's go through some of the questions. These are the essay prompts. There's a choice of 7. And remember, in the Common App, you're going to have to choose one of these. And so let's go through them. Some students have a background, identity, interest, or talent so meaningful, they believe their application would be incomplete without it. This sounds like you. Please share your story. All right, we're gonna do a little exercise together, and we're gonna have to ask you to use your chat boxes. After I get through item 7, I'm gonna ask you guys to select the top 3 that you know that you would consider. And if there are a few that you would absolutely eliminate, mentally jot that down now. Item 2, prompt number 2. The lessons we take from obstacles we encounter can be fundamental to later success. Recount a time when you faced a challenge, setback, or failure. How did it affect you? And what did you learn from the experience? We spoke about that one already. Keep in mind the do's and don'ts for that one. Next up, reflect on a time when you questioned or challenged a belief or idea. What prompted your thinking? What was the outcome? This is one of those questions where they are looking for outside of the box thinking. So if you have a little bit of a controversial topic, this is a safe question to include that. If that's a big part of your journey, this is that question. If in case you're, into something where not everyone will necessarily agree. Item number 4, describe a problem you've solved or a problem you'd like to solve. It can be an intellectual challenge, a research query, an ethical dilemma, anything of personal importance, no matter the scale. Explain its significance to you and what steps you took or could be taken to identify a solution. All right, next up, number 5, discuss an accomplishment, event, or realization that sparked a period of personal growth and a new understanding of yourself or others. Next up, describe a topic, idea, or a concept you find so engaging it makes you lose all track of time. Why does it captivate you? What or who do you turn to when you want to learn more? So if you're really into the volleyball team, and that's a big part of who you are, and you dedicate a lot of your time towards that, now may be that time, that moment to speak about that journey. Item 7, share an essay or any topic of your choice. It can be one you've already written, one that responds to a different prompt, or one of your own design. Again, if you're a creative thinker and you don't like to follow all the rules all the time, and you like to be a little bit outside the box, this is your opportunity to showcase the best version of that important aspect of who you are. Take a moment, read them all again, and narrow it down to the 3 that you feel your experiences will allow you to write about. And if you're a ninth grader, you don't have to pick 3. You may just pick 4 or 5 or keep them all open because your experiences are still ahead of you. All right, let's continue looking at types of prompts. We've already spoken about, the use. There's even more ways to further describe that. So let's take a deeper dive into that. The you question. This question boils down to tell us about yourself. College wants to know students better and see how students introduce themselves. Benefits of this: allows you to express yourself through a different outlet than just your grades, as mentioned. The risks: if it's too open-ended, you may have the need to talk about this, that, and 4 other things where they really want you to go deeper into 1 or 2. So you want to be really, really organized if it's an open-ended question, because the question itself may not serve the amount of structure that you may need for a really strong personal statement. The why us question. So this is one of our favorite actors and from one of our favorite shows called Blackish on ABC. And she plays the mom. She's an anesthesiologist, famous actress. This question boils down to, what are your goals? How serious about you coming to this particular college? So this was where I had made that mistake many, many years ago. You really, really want to know that you have a good idea about that college. And if you have your goals figured out, how to connect that, this may put you that much closer to a seat at their school. However, there is a risk. If you're writing an essay for Sophie Davis Medical School, and all they're looking for is kids pursuing primary care, and you make an essay talking about surgery, super specialties, anesthesia, neurosurgery, that's going to tell Sophie Davis that your goals are very different from what they're looking for. So you have to do that extra research on colleges and what they're looking for, and make sure that you're a good fit. Creative question, again, colleges, there are a lot of fantastic liberal arts and creative fields out there, whether it's something like design or architecture. Farhan, do you know any other creative majors that are offered in some of the colleges where you go to school and some of the other nearby ones? Because you take on a lot of creative tasks on our team.
So usually you've already mentioned design, architecture. There's also like film, all kinds of like painting, stuff like that. Art history, all kinds of different artistic fields that you can go into rather than just sticking to the major design stuff or just architecture. Architecture is more engineering, but it does have a good amount of art stuff built into it.
Thank you so much. And I wanted to throw architecture in there because when we think about it, we just mostly think like civil engineering and like all of like the foundation aspects of it. But as you grow into the field, there's a lot of creativity that you need to bring into it. So I wanted to keep that in mind. Also, writing, journalism. It's a very, very creative field. So I wanted to keep that in mind for all of you. So the goal of this type of question is to get an understanding of the student's ability to think and write creatively. This allows students to showcase their personalities and views. Some students can take this as an outlet to be pretentious. So the risk is you could get so creative that your essay does not answer the question. You think like, you kind of treat it almost like a joke, and you may have answered something there, but it's so outside the box that you're way too far off. And it can be, you run the risk of being too undisciplined, but it all depends on the type of program you're applying to and who you are as an individual. All right, the supplemental essays. Supplemental essays are an additional essay that you will have to submit for special programs or top places that won't only accept just one personal essay. Even though the common application asks you to choose one of those 7 specific schools will ask you for more essays if they see fit. So it's recommended that you take the same level of care as you did for the personal statement for it. So Nipa, are you still around?
Yes.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that question earlier. It took me back to a long time ago. And as you remember, this week I was helping a senior from a top high school in New York City for their supplemental essays that they're submitting to Sophie Davis. And these were the 3 prompts that they had. And I'll take you through the questions. This is just one example of a school that requires supplemental essays. And my question from my time was probably similar to question 2, Nipa, about the national health problem that I wanted to help reverse or help create a solution towards. So I'll go through the updated ones. What was that? You're saying, Nipa?
Oh no, I was saying great.
I have a question for you quickly. You
Sure.
have been at Barnard. Do you remember and you later attended Columbia for your master's. Do you remember any of the personal statements that you wrote on your way to Barnard and then later on Columbia Masters for Mailman?
Yeah, for Barnard, I remember. I don't remember what I wrote for Columbia, even though that was a lot more recent. For Barnard, I had written, my personal statement was about accomplishing something. So I actually used to be in martial arts, as you know, and I was talking about my journey with not just physical confidence, but mental self-confidence, and how martial arts had helped me gain that aspect of my character.
Oh man, if you still have it, I'd love to read it.
I unfortunately don't have it anymore.
Not
It was a
anymore.
long time ago. It was
Yeah.
like, what, 1999?
We're not giving our age away right away. So
Yeah, probably when some of our instructors were born, right? And
beforehand.
yeah.
So to all the students and to Farhan, our leader here, let's go through the essay prompts for this year's Sophie Davis application. Choose one of your extracurricular activities, employment, or community experiences, and describe why it has been especially meaningful to you. So you can absolutely dig into your extracurricular activities, find one of them, and then talk about it's been especially meaningful for you. Next up, the Sophie Davis Biomedical Education Program, CUNY School of Medicine, is committed to equity, inclusion, and social justice, and values racial, ethnic, socioeconomic, and overall cultural diversity as key components to training future physicians. As you reflect on your volunteer work, community service, employment, or other activities, notice Sophie Davis put volunteer work first. The volunteer work is something that they're probably very used to seeing in their top applicants. How have you become an agent of social change? And in doing so, how have you taken initiative to learn about and experience cultures different from your own? So this is one of those unique ones. You got to be able to speak about learning about other people's cultures while not being offensive. Sometimes when we watch the news and we see certain channels and the way they speak about minority people like myself, or even 50-something% of the population, which are women, you hear the difference in tone depending on the channel you're watching, unfortunately. So you gotta be really, really careful and be politically correct for this one when you're talking about another culture and you're learning about it. You have to be very, very careful in the way you choose your words and the way you choose your messaging, and just do some rereads and share it with other people to make sure that it's what the admissions committee might be looking for as far as tone goes. Item 3, to aid the admissions committee in learning more about you, please share your current influences and interest for pursuing a career in medicine. So here is Sophie Davis trying to, ask, hey, is this really you trying to become a doctor? Or is it your parents trying to make you become a doctor? Why are you trying to commit to this lifelong journey of, all the good things and the bad things that come with becoming a physician? I'll pause right here. Let's open it up for some questions. We got into some specific questions from one of the top places in New York. Any questions? We'll give you guys 30 seconds, a minute, and then we'll keep moving. Tips for writing an effective personal statement. Now that we've gotten ourselves familiarized with what they're going to be looking for, let's go through some further tips that you guys can apply when writing out your personal statements. And again, this may be a conversation for the college essay. Hopefully, these writing tips will help you for other essay prompts, scholarships that we spoke about last week, final papers in school, an essay contest that your English teacher makes everyone apply to, like anything, any of those above. Start your outline by listing goals and objectives. This is my personal favorite way to write anything that's more than a page long or even a page. To answer the personal statement prompt, allowing one to identify and verbalize the best version of your true self. That's the goal. You want to use this essay to allow someone else to find the best true version of yourself. The first objective is stay true to yourself and your story without lying or exaggerating. You don't need to pretend to be someone that you're not. Even in something like writing, they will be able to tell that it's not from within because they'll see inconsistencies. Something in the beginning may sound one way, and by the middle it may sound a different way, and then at the end, and they have enough experience to tell that it's not a true reflection of who you are. Show your story through examples that you experienced. Show, don't tell. One of my favorite sayings is, well done is better than well said. We can all have a lot of lofty goals and speak a big game and talk a lot of smack and trash, but until we actually accomplish that, sometimes a lot of that talk is meaningless. So it's really important that we're able to prove who we are through our actions and our results rather than just talking a big game. Objection number 3, follow all guidelines around character length and answer the questions stated. You could be starting an essay and they may ask for choose one extracurricular activity. And when you're writing it, you start thinking, oh my gosh, this reminds me, when I did the track team, I also started volunteering at a local church near where I used to practice track. And then suddenly your essay goes from talking about track team to doing track team and the volunteer work at the church, and you can kind of lose your way. So just please remember to follow the character length and answer the question that's stated. All right. So principles of persuasion is something that I picked up during my time at Columbia Business School. A few years ago, I attended Columbia Business School to complete my certificate in business excellence. And in communication, especially in writing, you want to be persuasive sometimes. This is your one chance to get yourself into a great school of your dreams. So here are some 6 principles that are used out there, and they were created by someone named Robert Cialdini. I think they're in the I think they're at Arizona State University now. They're still around, and they created these 6 principles of persuasion to ensure that the reader can be persuaded of something. So if you're answering, let's say you're speaking about why you should be selected above other people. We're going to go with the risky one. You're going to actually, Farhan, can you just scroll back a little bit and tell me what prompt number 5 says? And I'll see if we can use that one. That was the most popular one chosen. So I'll go through the principles first, and then we'll see how we can apply it. Liking. Liking is something as simple as starting something, like if you're writing to, you want to be able to express how much you appreciate and like a particular school, or since I've been a child, I remember my winter breaks and we would drive past this university town on our trip to see our grandpa and grandma, and I always had fond memories of the environment in that school. That's just being able to show that you're liking who the reader is, and the reader is from that college, so you want to write something true about why you like that college. Reciprocity is, it may not be totally applicable here, but it's when you're able to do something kind towards something and hoping for something back. And it could be, I've always wanted to enter the medical field, and I knew that in order to get better exposure, I wanted to volunteer my time at the local clinic. And volunteering my time was meaningful because I was able to gain an experience while doing, work to help my community. And that's, you're giving. You're not taking anything back, you're giving back. So you were giving, but reciprocity, you give so much, at some point, hopefully, life or the admissions committee will reward you for all that giving and give you a spot at their university. Scarcity is when there's not enough resources that everyone can get something. So it's scarce. It's a hot commodity, and not everyone's going to get to enjoy that. So sometimes scarcity could be around a really selective program. Scarcity could be about you describing your journey to become a team captain for your debate team or your computer science club or your robotics club, and there's only 2 spots, and I had to work all year and do this extra credit work and serve with the teacher at the school for younger kids to get a captaincy spot. So you may want to speak about that if something was scarce and you were able to achieve it. Authority. Hey, Farhan, you ready for that question 5? And I can try to build that into the answers for this.
Yep. So question 5 is, discuss an accomplishment, event, or realization that sparked a period of personal growth and a new understanding of yourself or others.
Amazing. So all of us are thinking about an accomplishment, and during high school, a special time in our lives. But what made it an accomplishment? Was it because mom and dad gave you a big high five and a pat on the back and put your 95 on the fridge, or like a participation trophy? Or was it like the Intel science competition, or, whichever the most recent sponsors, I think it's Regeneron now. And you were a semifinalist in a national research science competition, and hearing your name called by the organizers at Regeneron validated your self-confidence in your pursuit of doing scientific research moving forward. So if you have a governing body or a proper award, like a principal's award, and it fits in your story, that authority may allow this college to know that it's not just a participation trophy for mom and dad, but it's an actual something that counts. It's like the honor society put a lot of consideration to selecting, and they only choose 10 kids every year, scarcity, and the honor society is nationally recognized. There's your authority. Social proof is showcasing that other people really were on a similar journey as well. So you can say I come from a large high school where a lot of students want to enter a career in STEM, and being exposed to my peers, I was able to gain my newfound love for STEM, which led to being a finalist in the competition, or getting a chance to represent my school at this other tournament and things like that. Commitment is speaking about how long and how much effort that you dedicated over time to becoming a master of that trade. So let's say you are, I think I had a question about cricket last week, and you're a cricket player on the cricket team, or you finally made it to your school volleyball team or your basketball team after years of practicing. You want to showcase that journey of your commitment to getting better. I used to wake up 2 hours early every weekend so I could go practice my skills at the local park with a pickup league. And that was my commitment for 2 years, no matter how cold or snowy it was. So if you're able to put these 6 principles together, our hope is that you can persuade the admissions committee to look at your application a lot more heavily.
Yvonne,
Yep.
just a quick question. Can you please explain social proof again? There was a question in the chat.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you for conveying that. Social proof is proving to the admissions committee that you're not alone on this journey to want to get accepted into or grow into that field. You've seen people in your own family, like an older cousin or your older sister, who's gone through a similar journey, and you kept in touch with them, and they described their experiences, and that's convinced you that this is also good for you. So in society, if you have proof from someone else or a group of people that they've already done this, and based on that social proof, you feel like you're going to give it a shot too, and you're going to be a good fit, that's where that concept comes in. Great questions. All right, I'm going to move on. What to do after your first draft? Take a break. You're not going to get much more done right away. You need to take a break. Because the way I write is very different from the way other people can write, but I like to get my first draft. I'll do my outline. Think about how I can have my outline fit the 6 principles of persuasion. I try to write my goals on top. I want to get accepted into Sophie Davis, my objectives, 1, 2, and 3. And then after all said and done, put it away, go to sleep, go do your favorite hobby, go take a nap, run around, whatever, go see a movie. Yeah, get your mind off of it, most importantly. And then come back a few days later if you have that time. So you're never going to do your personal statement over the course of 1 week. You need some time to let it marinate, as they say. So now that you've had your break, it's time to review your draft with fresh eyes. So now is a time where you may want to look at it yourself again for any grammatical mistakes, anything that doesn't seem coherent. When we're in a rush and we're like writing, we could have a lot of stuff we're excited to write about, but at the end of it, some of it may, definitely needs revisions. And of course, any which way you're able to edit for grammatical mistakes is important. Keep your tenses similar. And if you have a chance later, or always have it reviewed if you can, by a teacher, a tutor. If you guys are at cons and you have your mentorship meetings with your college, meetings that we're having every week now for 10 minutes at a time. And if you're a senior, you can say, hey, would you have time to review my essay? I'll give you 3 weeks to look at it. But you never want to be that teenager that waits till the last minute, submits your essay to your AP English teacher, say, hey, can you please review this and give me any feedback? My essay is due tomorrow. You never want to give a professional that short notice. So you want to see, if it's not a teacher, maybe it's someone in your family that you trust who's going to be able to read it and not judge you. And of course, at cons, we don't have the essay review services built in directly right now. However, I'm sure that as these mentorship meetings go on with our 12th graders, we'll make sure to have room for that. So if you're in 11th grade now, by next year, we'll most likely have some sort of essay review capabilities built into the existing programs or any new ones. Top grammar things to look out for. Grammar is super important. Bad use of grammar can lead to a lack of understanding of what you are trying to say to your reader. Within sentence punctuation, don't try to use fancy punctuation you're not familiar with. Keep it simple. Same goes for vocabulary. Do not try to use big words that you don't fully understand because you can end up using them wrong. Tense consistency. Keeping the tense consistent maintains the transparency for your reader. So you never want to say they were going towards another place, and from there, and you change the tense up, and so you want to be sure that it is appropriate and it's consistent. Sequence, when you tell your story, make sure you're speaking in the sequence and that's simple for the reader, even though you've been through that experience and you can unscramble it, like A, D, E, C, B. The reader cannot. It's their first time and their only chance at reading this. So one of the things that I find myself doing a lot after I put my first draft out, sometimes I'll literally move an entire paragraph. This doesn't fit down here. This fits more in the middle. And that paragraph of the second, third one fits more towards the end. It's more of a conclusion one. And then I'll move entire paragraphs around so the sequencing can tell that story as I see fit. Last one, I gotta move my Zoom bar over. Sequence, that was it. Okay. So next up, pardon me. You reviewed it enough, but you're still not satisfied. This is where I was speaking about someone else getting a chance to review it. You never want to be the only one looking at it, and you want to ask someone with some experience and give them enough time so you're not hitting them up at the last minute or with less than 24 hours left. Final tip, examine the question. Some people prepare generic statements because they're applying to more than one school, and it's a lot of work to do a personal essay for each school. On the other hand, the generic statements detract from the applicant when the admissions committee realized the same student was sent to multiple schools. It shows that you didn't prioritize the school, so please be sure that you are able to answer the questions that are asked and you're not submitting something for one school where it was really meant for someone else. That would be like insulting, Nipa, you're still there with us?
Yep.
As the former leader of the high school services department, now chief operating officer of the company, do you have any takeaways that you want to repeat to the young women and young men who've been such an amazing audience today before we sign off?
Yeah, all of you really were an amazing audience. And Yvonne, I think you did such a great job, talking about this topic, because I don't know if everyone realizes just how important it is. Yes, it is important to get a high GPA. It is, if you want to get into one of your dream colleges, right? And yes, it's important to get a high SAT score. All of those grade specific stuff, they are important. However, there are things like the personal statement that really will make you stand out during the admissions process. And when admissions offices look at your application, that's the thing that will make you stand out from the crowd. So that's why I'm really glad that all of you were so engaged and you participated during this session. And thank you so much for participating, because it really is your future, and we've been trying to help you a lot. And I'm glad that everyone is here and has learned everything that you did. So thank you, Yvonne, and thank you, everyone.
Thank you to all the students. Next week's topic is scheduled to be college research and planning. One of my favorite ones is we can talk about colleges in the Northeast versus the West versus the Southeast and all the top places that we've been hearing about and we're all excited to apply to and learn more about. I wanted to quickly remind you guys that next week's start time will be 3 o'clock. Next week, we are scheduled to have our parent meetings after your classes. So towards the end of your class sessions, for the last 10 minutes, you are asked to bring your parents over. The teachers will talk about what has been going on in your GPA classes, whether it's AP Chem, Bio, regular Bio, SAT. And from there, the link will be different for everyone, so just remember that. And next week, we'll create the link and have it ready for 3 p.m. to 4 p.m. Thank you all for being here today. You've been a wonderful, wonderful, amazing classroom for this workshop. And, you know, stay safe out there. Happy holidays. Can't wait to hang out next week at 3. And, you know, give our best to your families. And hopefully, you know, we can continue our work together as you all work towards your dream target colleges, everyone. Bye.